Not sure if this was a TV broadcast or like a form of sleep paralysis, but I've never forgotten it. Be me, 9 years old, summer 1999. Still afraid to sleep at night in the dark, so I used a TV as a nightlight. Used Fox News because it was the most boring shit ever, and the light didn't flicker as much. Fall asleep per usual. Snore. Hear something in my sleep which causes me to wake up. Is he asleep? I don't know. Rub my eyes as I look at the TV. Both news hosts are staring back at me, both hunched over like they are carefully studying me. Friend what.x. A few seconds later, they break eye contact. The man clears his throat, and the woman shuffles some papers. Well, let's go back to the situation in Africa, as Nelson Mandela... I was very freaked out and just kept staring at the screen. Shit never happened again after that. Be really late at night. Fell asleep watching some bizarre local channel sometime in the 90s. Wake up to this loud sound that happens when a TV goes off air, as pictured. Then, after a while, the screen changes. It's now a forklift just lifting trash and dumping it into a garbage dump. The TV has gone silent. Then, staticky letters appear, listing only first and last names. Then, a low warbling and sad, almost crying voice says that these are the people that will die tomorrow. Goodbye. Back to static, and then weather forecast. Been spooked of sleeping with the TV on ever since. How I met the Reaper? Not. I was 7 or 8 and playing with some friends. Right behind our apartment blocks was a spacey playground that was surrounded with mixed brushes, trees, a small pond, and a path to the cornfield. We were forbidden to go to the cornfield because that was already out of earshot from any house. Little buggers we were, we gave a shit on rules and went apeshit in the field. One day, we came across what is called crop circles today, but wasn't a thing back then. Neatly done circular shapes trampled into the corn. Nothing else but corn in all directions. It was a sunny day, fucking hot. Nothing to hear but wind and insects. Suddenly, we stumbled upon what must have been the center of the crop circles. A black-robed figure stood there, showing us its back. It was handling a scythe, sharpening it. I was not familiar with the cliche Reaper at the time, so I was wondering what a monk, or whatever it was, did in this cornfield. No monastery for hundreds of miles. That guy must have heard us and bolted around. Just blackness where the face should have been. Black gloves and boots. In that damn heat. He raised the scythe and began walking in our direction without a word. We bolted, but I tripped in the corn. He moved into my direction. Before I was within his reach, I was up again and run around him. He was a little slow and could not keep up. Kicked him in his butt. That was unexpected. Guy stumbles to his knees and drops the scythe. I make a run for it and meet up with my friends later on. I told my parents, and they gave me a serious spanking. Also, I had never to tell again of the guy with the scythe. All my friends were also told to keep shut about the guy. The parents were all upset and angry, but nobody told us why. No internet back then, so we never figured out what really was the point about that at all. A year later, a neighbor kid vanished in summer. Last seen entering the cornfield. Here's a short one for you. Be me, be Bosnian. Live about 100 kilometers from place of mass killing. Get drunk one night. Love Urbex, Dora the Explorer.jpg. Go there with a buddy of mine. Dark and gloomy day. Welcome to the zone, Stalker.jpg. Walk around for like an hour. Start hearing faint whispers and children laughing. Being idiots, we only want to explore more. Get to an old school. Fucking wall is destroyed. Can see inside. Stare, then start to leave. Friend grabs my shoulder. Did you just see that? The fuck? Claims to have seen shadows. Solid shadows. Start walking to the forest nearby. Hear woman cry. Please don't take him! Turns out, Mass grave was found in that forest. Shit ourselves. It's getting dark. Start walking through the forest. We both don't know why. We both feel extremely sad. Start hearing people yell. The accent. Serbs. Hear gunshots. We start running. We are right now having flashback to an event that happened before we were born. What the fuck is going on? Turn around. Absolutely nothing there. Start walking, but still keep looking behind us. Fall into a fucking ditch. Friend asks if I'm alright. Say yeah, I just hit my knee on a rock. Look down. That's a pretty strange white rock. Oh god, that JPEG. It was a fucking open grave. Climb out as fast as humanly possible. I run like a friend on crack who just robbed a bank. Finally hit a road. We take a rest and head to town. I decide to leave an anonymous tip to the authorities to find the grave. They find it. A week later, have a weird dream. I'm at a Muslim funeral, an old woman crying, and a strange young man standing at the coffin. The man says, "Thanks for helping my mother." It feels great to have helped someone find peace. Okay, first time I've told anyone about this other than my town cops. But here goes. Be me, 2 years ago. Live alone. 3 a.m. Upstairs in computer room browsing hentai or whatever. Hear windows smash open downstairs. Take off headphones and sit up. Not a second after the smash, I hear it. Sounds like heavy, very fast footsteps bounding through the house. Went straight from the window across my living room in like 3 seconds. Hear it running up the stairs, inhumanly fast. I quickly get up and lock the door. Not a second later, it's right outside the door, and the knob is getting ripped around like crazy. Knob stops twisting. Door creaks and pushes in a bit from weight pressing on it. Pressure comes off door, and everything goes dead silent. I just stand there looking at the door, still kinda shocked. Hear the steps run just as fast back downstairs, through house. Hear a little more glass break as whatever it was leaves through the broken window. Whole thing happened in like 25 to 30 seconds. It's like it knew exactly where I was in the house and was trying to get to me as fast as it could. Stand there listening to my heartbeat pounding in my ears for half a minute. Then, call the cops. They show up like 10 minutes later and I explain what happened. They investigate it as a home invasion, but nothing comes of it. Not too worried now though, cause I'm ready if it ever comes back. Installed security system, strong locks on doors and windows, and bought a shotgun. Anytime I'm in a room, I lock the door and have my gun with me. I don't know what the fuck was in my house that night, but I'm just thankful I was awake and sharp enough to lock my door in time. Don't want to think about if I was asleep, or if I got to the door a second later. Alone with dog and house on outskirts of town. Rather small house, despite it being 2 stories. Surrounded by trees on all but one side. One night, be on computer upstairs. Hear a strange, very low humming noise. Turn off everything in room that's making sound. Sound is coming from outside. Open window. Sound is coming from woods. As I listen, it gets louder. See nothing. Starting to get creeped. Dog getting nervous and whining. Fuck this. Close/lock window. Close shades, lock door, get bat. Noise is so loud. Windows rattling. Sounds like a jet engine hovering over my house. Suddenly, everything's silent. Be still. Very faint sound of multiple footsteps outside. Footsteps fade in the direction of my backyard. Think I hear back door open. Heart racing, clutching bat, sweating bullets. Dog is a puss and is just hiding under bed without a peep. Hear muffled footsteps throughout the first floor. Now, there's some coming up the stairs. Oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, I'm gonna die, oh fuck. Something's just outside the door. Right before fight or flight kicks in, dog barrels out from under bed and charges the door. His growl is like nothing I've heard before. Deep and guttural. Dog continues to growl like a demon for about a minute, before turning to me and lifting his ears. Be still. Hear silence. To be safe, I wait about an hour in silence. Dog is just panting and wagging his tail. Deem it safe to go out. Open door. First thing that hits me is a terrible stench, like rancid formaldehyde. Dog runs downstairs and sniffs about. I check all rooms with my bat. Nothing but that lingering smell. Go downstairs. Nothing out of place in living room. Go to kitchen. Fridge door slightly open, / a few cabinet doors open. After determining all is safe and nothing is stolen, I lock every door and window, retreating back to my room where I stay awake through the night with my dog and bat. Nothing like that has happened again. I occasionally get a whiff of that terrible smell outside my house, but never inside, thank God. B12 gets into a correctional summer camp by mistake because best friend's mom is ESL. 1,200 kids. I'm one of 5 white kids. Friend and I get assigned to a Cherokee camp. Cherokee camp is pretty in the woods, and my cabin is even further in the woods, about 25 meters from a large creek. Cabins are your basic 15 by 15 6-foot wall, with 4 feet of openness into the roof. Bunk beds. Bottom bunk is mashed up against the wall. Top bunk is exactly parallel with the open window. Get a top bunk assigned. Camp generally pretty cool. I was / am a bit weird, so everyone thought I was a voodoo doctor. Late one night, laying in bunk. New moon. Hear what I thought was raccoons fighting by creek. The fight manages to make its way right under my window. Screams and snarls rattle my existence. One creature slams into the side of the cabin and runs off howling. Hear growling and labored breathing. Then, hear claws scratching and pulling through the window. Hide in sleeping bag. Creature climbs into bunk and sits on my legs. Can't breathe. I'm so terrified. Entire camp is dead quiet. Why won't anyone help me? Creature is impossibly heavy. Couldn't move if I wanted to. It sits and licks itself for what feels like forever. Suddenly, hear a truck tear into camp. Bright spotlights blaze into my cabin. Creature lets out some horrible scream, like something I've never heard before. It bolts out the window, so hard and fast it rips my sleeping bag and scratches my left shin. Piss myself. Truck tears off into the woods after it. Next morning, find hollowed out raccoon by the creek. All other campers visibly frightened the next morning. They all thought I was dead. We all asked counselors what the fuck happened. Never get a straight answer. 32 now, still have a scar on my shin from whatever scratched me. This was way in Northern California. I live in central Indiana. Gets boring around here, nothing but corn, baked beans, and old people. Even Indy gets pretty boring. One of my favorite things to do used to be late night walks. On one late summer night in 2015, I had an encounter that I can't explain properly. Be walking by the cornfields, flashlight in one hand, the other in my pocket. Never carry a firearm because not much crime happens out there. I've walked down this road plenty of times, and nothing out of the ordinary ever happened before. Suddenly, a huge flash across the sky, like someone left off a flare gun or something. Probably some rednecks with their fireworks. Stop dead in my tracks when I realize the ball of light lingers in the sky too long. Realize that I never heard a shot fire, and that this light is too bright to be a flare. Also, why would it be coming out of a cornfield at this hour? My heart rate increases. Something just isn't right. The air starts getting colder. Sounds of crickets and cicadas go silent. Check my phone. It's 2:07 a.m. Try to unlock it in case of emergency, but it shuts off without even going to the powering down screen. Nearly shit myself. Battery was at 80%. Fuck this shit.gif. I turn around and start speedwalking home. Feel this immense pressure from behind. like I'm being followed, but don't turn around to look. Really regretting not taking my piece with me. Light in the sky starts flickering out, like an old light bulb. It's dark again. Great. Turn my flashlight on again and start into a light jog. 15 feet ahead, the corn starts to shake. A figure steps out of the corn and raises a rifle at me. I nearly run into it, bare on my face, before I halt. I scream, but feel relieved when I realize who the man is. I won't say his name for privacy, but I'll just call him Farmer John. He's an old friend of my father's, fought in Nam together. He lowers the rifle and asks me what the hell I was doing out there at 4 in the morning. I look at him, confused. I tell him it's 2, and I'm just out for a walk. Now he looks concerned. Feel a warm trickle down my lips. When I touch it, I look at my fingers and freak out. My nose is fucking bleeding. Anon, are you alright? Farmer John asks, stepping closer to me. Stumble back a little, then claps. I wake up in John's house. It's 1 p.m. Wife is there, hysterical. John tells me I passed out last night. Asks me again why I was out there. I tell him I was taking a walk like I usually do. Tell him late night walks clear my head. He asks me what I was babbling about in my sleep. Something about the long men with big eyes and icy fingers. At this point, I'm fucking terrified. I tell him I don't know what he's talking about. Explain that I saw a strange light in the sky at around 2 a.m. Then turned around to head home because I wasn't feeling right. And that's when I bumped into him. John asks if I'm sure about the time. I say yes because I checked my phone before it shut off. John swears to me that he found me stumbling around the side of his plot at 4:30 a.m. I ask my wife, who's crying, to hand me my phone. It doesn't turn on. I check the battery. The damn thing melted into the back of the phone. Literally, what the fuck? Thank John for helping me and go home with my wife. She asks me what really happened. Tell her the same thing I told John. She thinks I'm crazy. Almost ruins our marriage because she thinks I got into some illegal shit. I used to bet on sports. Had my fair share of troubles in the past over that. If my own wife doesn't believe me, I'm sure no one else would. Sometimes, I get these sharp headaches that make my face tremble, but not often. I don't do late night walks anymore. Only reason I share this now is that I've almost gone mad not having a place to share this story to. Hopefully, people here will believe me. I got a story. Been meaning to post this one for a while. This is back around 2006, early summer. I was just your typical 17-year-old kid. Parents moved around a lot back in those days, but we always ended up living beside large forests, woods, or prairie places. Done plenty of exploring, with and without friends. Tons of stories, but there's always one which makes you look back on with no definite answer in sight, no matter which way you look at it. But this is how it went down. Played a lot of video and watched a lot of TV. Taps was big in these days. People respected them then, so you can see I was really taken by the whole let's go ghost hunting trend. Near my house, there's this big urban forest, kind of like New York Park, split into 3 parts. Forest 1, 2, and 3. Through the years, I had a couple strange, unexplained events happen to me in them. Phantom smells, like lavender and roses, simply faded away as quick as they came. At night, in Forest 2, which had a concrete foundation where probably a house once stood, me and a few friends would see brief bright flashes of light just erupt over our heads, with nothing over there for miles, too close down for planes. It actually lit up the ground around us, like if it were a hovering camera flash. Of course, now that I look back on it, it might have been a hunter's camera gadget strapped to a tree or something. One's guess. Then there was Forest 3, which had a cemetery in it. Caught a ton of EVPs there, chilling ones. Most notable one, I asked, "Is there a heaven, a hell? Why don't you call for God?" And a young woman replied to me in a sad tone, "There is no God." So, there was some freaky stuff going on there. One day, I woke up early in the morning, 4:30 a.m. between 5. I recently bought this cheap $70 digital camera from Walmart and was extremely bored with it. So I figured an early walk in the forest should provide me with some unique pictures. Which they did if you want to see them. Probably not, but they're all from this day, and we'll post some. So I set out doing the same thing I've done probably 100 times by now. I'm Jay walking down the streets, and after a couple blocks, hit the forest entrance and dive in. And I dive in deep into her. I spend the next 15 minutes just heading to some known places I know would give me some good snapshots. So I take a quickie snap here and another quickie snap there, thinking to myself, this is gold, son. All the while forgetting the whole entire wood is empty, silent, desolate as I had ever seen it before. I usually run into 1 or 2 people by now, either jogging or walking their mutts, but nothing. It's a good day, I say to myself. Let's carry on. So I head to this area called the safe zone. It's simply called that on the account that it's wide, expansive with a little sand dune, and a tall tree smack down in the middle of it. So, if you're under that tree, you can pretty much see all paths that string together Forest 1. I'm there, so I decide let's bam it to the lake. I pick a path from the safe zone and head for it. It is at this time I sense an eerie feeling in the air, like I'm being watched. I ignored it because at that age, I wasn't mature enough to that point where everyone learns to either trust your gut, your feelings, or an internal ringing alarm bell, or whatever. I stayed calm and carried on. I hit the lake. I'm tired from walking like 45 minutes of miles. Sun was out but casting gray skies, with a sudden in and out drizzle between instances. I perk myself against the ledge underneath the cover of some trees, and with a low battery on my camera, just decide to hang out while staring blankly out at this lake that, be my recollection, wasn't swamped by heavy fog or mist not 5 minutes ago. First time I seen the place like this, I tell myself. Then, my eyes caught it from the distance. I'm frozen. I see a person draped in this loose sheet, what looked to be a black tarp, just simply spinning and spinning around in circles in a pond bush of dogtails. His or her arms open widely as if praising something repeatedly. I'm simply there being as quiet as I can be, not moving an inch, barely releasing a breath observing this mad person. This goes on for about 25 seconds, until the spin comes to an abrupt stop. I stare wide-eyed with thoughts racing in my mind. What the fuck is this? Should I? I'm thinking to myself, you got a camera. Don't be one of those idiots who don't capture the shit they so desperately brag about years from now on. Low battery, bars practically invisible. Cheap-ass Walmart brand, don't die on me. I reach for it and look up, and I find him looking in my direction. I tell you, I saw no face. It was white or gray, whatever, like a doll. Was it a mask? I don't know, but I was terrified that I was discovered, pinpointed out for my cover. It was far from me, but it still managed to see me in like 4 seconds. So, I stare slackjaw, slowly lifting up my camera. In that moment, he, or it, lifts one white arm out of its tarp and points at me, just pointing at me from a distance, as if doing some ritual jest. Then his arm drops slowly down. You know that scene from Shaun of the Dead, where Shaun pushes a zombie chick onto the steel pole and she gets up, while Ed rotates the film reel on his camera? That's what I did. I lifted my camera up, and snap. Another one. Snap. Battery officially dead. Then I got up, slowly backed away, and I ran all the way back to the safe zone, and out a dozen trails and paths, crisscrossing to my exit. That was a crazy-ass day, I must say. Picture 1. And second. Be me, around 10 to 15 years old. Have German Shepherd. She sometimes tries to sleep in bed with me, but I usually wouldn't let her, 'cause the bed always ends up covered in dirt/sand and hair. Let dog out late at night, She's out there for a couple hours. This is normal for her. She's probably out in the woods or the cornfields or something. Eventually, decide to call her back in. Yell for a while, but she doesn't come. She's done this before too, but she's always back in the morning. She's not back in the morning. Eventually, find the dog's body in the ditch. Neck broken. Must have gotten hit by a car. Later that night, I feel something touching at the end of my bed. Look up. It's the dog. She wants to come up. Tell her no and lay head back down. Wait a minute, the dog is dead at JPEG. Look again. She's gone. Now every time I think about that night, I wish I would have let the dog get in the bed. Just one more time. Hey X, I don't really know what the procedure is on this board, but I just had a fucking scary experience happen to me and my mates. I'm from K, by the way. If you guys don't know, there is a long-time tradition in northern Michigan called polar bearing. It is pretty much just camping out in a dugout snow cave or tent in the middle of winter. Me and my friends went up to Gaylord to hike/camp in the forest. We all are major shitheads and brought our AR-15s, various handguns, and my one buddy's Saiga he had just brought. Our plan was to hike to the campsite and then go shooting varmints later in the day. We got to the trailhead and got our shit ready for a hike. There was no one else on the sign-up sheet for staying the night, so we were all pretty happy. We hiked in for a few miles until we found the campsite. The place was a fucking wreck. Shit and trash thrown everywhere. We were pissed at the previous hikers for leaving such a mess. Boy Scouts leave, not trace shit. After we had finished cleaning the campsite, we split into groups to go find some small game. I went with my buddy, Dakota. He had the Meme Gun 2000 to try and track down some small critters. This might be the time to tell you that I had a 22 on me for red squirrels. They are some tasty buggers. We start walking through the woods until my body finds some prints in the snow and mud. There are a bunch of coyote tracks, but I thought they looked a bit weird as the paw was too big and the spaces separating them were a bit off. Dakota didn't care that much about specifics, and all he cared about was bagging a few coyotes. Later that evening, it was getting dark, and I wanted to go back to camp. We did not have NVGs or any of that fancy shit, so the chances of getting something was minuscule. I had been getting bad vibes all day because of all the black squirrels I saw. They are major bad luck, and if you kill them, you supposedly get cursed. I digress. My buddy Dakota wants to stay out longer, and he and I bicker until we hear a familiar yipping. Coyotes. Dakota gets his stupid fucking shotgun up and shoots the slug where the yipping was coming from. I scream at him to stop because we hadn't even seen the little buggers yet, let alone had the time to aim at one. I turn on the spotlight I had brought, aka giant ass HID flashlight, and start surveying the forest. I see a coyote in the edge of the opposite tree line, but it's a bit odd. For one, it didn't bolt when it hears the shotgun, and it was on its hind legs. The thing was standing up, and on closer inspection, was way larger than a coyote. My friend shot at it, but it ran just as he fired. It fucking ran, like on two legs. We were super freaked out at this point, and booked it to the camp. As we ran, we heard it howling, and almost pissed ourselves. We made it back to camp, and told the rest of our friends what we saw, and that we needed to book it out of there. They laughed at us, and told us that we had too much to drink. We kept on trying to get them to leave, but all they did was laugh at us. Until my friend Kyle saw it. It was at the edge of the campfire light, just watching us. Kyle was having none of it, and shot the fucker with his Glock. Wrong move that just seemed to piss it off, and it started screeching and ran out of sight. All of us scared out of our minds by now. We don't even pack, we just grab our rifles and start heading for the trailhead. We haul ass, but whatever that thing was, it was fast. We heard it coming from behind us. I was taking up the rear and swiveled just as the thing was 5 feet from me. I unloaded my entire mag into the thing, and it dropped. I had already soiled myself at this point and started running as fast as I could with the rest of my friends. We heard more of the howling the rest of the way, but never saw another one of those things. We made it to the car, and once I got cell signal, I called 911 and told them what happened. The operator just thought I was drunk. So, my buddies go to the nearest ranger station and tell them what had happened. They say some shit like, "Oh, we just ran into starving coyotes." That was no coyote. They let us stay until dawn and then take us back to our camp in a Kubota. On the way, we find my spent brass and a shit ton of blood. They say I must have hit one, no shit, and the others dragged its body away to eat. Our camp is a total loss, shit thrown everywhere. Rangers help us clean up and still insist it was coyotes. Just got back at 6 and have no idea what to think about this. Woke up in the middle of the night on the other side of my room, out of bed as a child. The light was off in the hallway that I always kept on, so I step out, flick it on, and go back to bed wondering what happened. Later that night, I wake up even further from my bed, in the middle of the hallway that had the light switch. The lights were off again. I stand up and hear a creepy sing-song voice. "Turn on the lights. Turn on the lights." It was coming from downstairs, the stairs being at the opposite end of the hallway from my room. I slowly went to the stairs and peeked down into the pitch-black darkness. Then it spoke again, only finishing this song. "Turn on the lights so you can see me." Noped out of there and ran to my bed and waited a while. I could clear as motherfucking day hear my front door open and shut, along with what sounded like 2 pairs of footsteps, probably in shoes or boots. I eventually waited for the noise downstairs to quit, and sprinted down the hall again past the stairs and into my parents' room. My dad went downstairs and came back up, saying it was nothing, and they put me back into my bed. Spent the rest of the night awake and waiting for them to come back. I swear to this day, I think someone was attempting to abduct me. I'm from Bangladesh, and although the major cities have developed infrastructure, some of the more isolated villages are pretty much like the Dark Ages. There's no electricity, no powerful lights, or any of that stuff. They are surrounded by dense, thick forests, and the villagers have stories of witches and jinn that live in the trees, and sometimes come into the villagers' huts and possess them. When I still lived in Bangladesh, my mom worked as a representative for poor villages. Her job was to basically go to villages around the country, provide them with aid and food, and establish rapport with the people in charge. She would sometimes take me and my sister along with her. This happened when I was about 9 or 10, and is something that has stayed with me to this day. We went to a particularly isolated village. The closest town with electricity and any sort of law enforcement was at least 2 hours away, by car. Right when we got there, something was off. Apparently, one of the villagers' sons was acting very strangely. They had him locked up in a barn, and people were gathering like it was a circus show. My mom forbade me to go there, but while she was busy working, I snuck over. What I saw chilled me to the bone. The kid was about my age, naked, foaming at the mouth, and covered in oozing sores. A man threw a live chicken into the barn, and the kid grabbed it by its neck and bit its head off. One of the men told me that the kid was possessed by a churel, a witch spirit with the face of a woman that can only be recognized by its backward placed feet. They are twisted 180 degrees and face the back of its body. Being a city boy, I just laughed it off. Later that day, I met a boy and a girl from the village, and we began kicking around a soccer ball I'd brought. Then I went home. That night, when everyone was asleep, I woke up suddenly. I looked out the window to the barn, where the boy was kept, only a few yards away. I saw the door slowly open, and something came out. It was a huge, towering figure, at least 10 feet tall, its face covered by black, scraggly hair. It was wearing a stained white robe and walked with a strange limp. In the full light of the moon, as it got closer, I could see its feet. They were backwards. My heart started pounding. I wanted to run to my mom in the next room, but My body was frozen in fright. I watched as the thing got closer and closer, until it was only a few feet from my window. I looked at its face, and my blood went cold. It was the face of the little girl I had been playing soccer with earlier that day. At that point, I don't know what happened. All I remember is blacking out and waking up the next day. There was a huge uproar because, apparently, the villager's possessed boy was found dead in the barn. I couldn't find the little girl anywhere. I asked around, but no one could even remember knowing a girl with the description I gave them. I tracked down the other boy I'd been playing soccer with, and he didn't know either. He said that he only remembered just the two of us playing that day. Bears are bros, but cougars seriously creep the shit out of me. A few months ago, drive a shitty US Forest Service road to a remote trailhead in the northern Cascades to go snowshoeing in the mountains. Alone, of course. Nobody has been in this area in months. Perfect. This will be a great overnight outing. Foggy, cloudy, and dark. A fuck ton of snow everywhere. Too spooky for you, but just perfect for an outing. Get out of your truck, kneel down next to the driver's side door to tie your boots. Hear something fall/jump from a tree behind you, and hear a weird sound. Kind of like the grunt that a cat or dog makes when it jumps down from something. Look back and see snow falling from a tree, and a large branch bouncing like a spring. Oh well, probably a marten or something, despite it obviously being something much larger. Put on your snowshoes and start walking up the snow-covered mountain road toward the trailhead. After about 500 feet, you realize that you forgot something in the truck. Turn around and start walking back. Notice large cougar tracks next to your footprints. It has followed you all the way from your truck. Looks like it turned 90 degrees and went back to the woods when it heard you turn around. Keep walking back to the truck. Make noise and try to look big. See that the cougar's track lead back to the road from the woods. Finally get back to the driver's side door of your truck. Remember that the keys are in the bottom of your backpack. Notice that the cougar tracks lead back toward the tree where all this started from. Realize that it's still watching you as you frantically try to find the keys. Notice that there are actually two sets of tracks. A large adult and a kitten, teaching her young how to hunt. My face went. This is a true story from a friend who served in the army not too many years ago. During a training rotation, his unit was sent to Washington State for an exercise. Trained for recon, this soldier and his unit of 6 were sent out into a thick forest one night to scout a simulated enemy position. As the 6 men worked their way through the forest, they began to feel a sense of dread building. Soon, the hairs began to stand on the backs of their necks, and their hands trembled uncontrollably. It was at this point that they felt something stalking them through the forest. When the unit stopped to listen, they would hear the sound of something large moving through the brush suddenly come to a halt and go still. When they moved out, they would hear the sounds of movement begin again as something large kept pace with them. The soldiers tried to shake their shadow, to no avail. They had no ammunition, so they dare not set a trap for the hidden stalker. And while they increasingly reached their wits' end, they could clearly see the branches being pushed as something spied on them from as little as 20 feet away. Soon enough, the group abandoned their mission and beat an immediate retreat to their base camp, the stalker following behind closely until it faded away close to home. The 6 men went to their commander and told their story. What scared the men the most was the sudden fear in the officer's face. The next night, the unit was sent out again to complete their mission, but this time, each man had been issued live rounds for their weapons. And yes, this is a true story. Alright, X, I'm gonna tell you the story of the Shambling Man. This happened last summer, but I've put off telling the story because I was always too lazy to actually type it up. I want to hear some opinions on this thing because I still have no idea what the fuck to think. No real idea as to whether it's even dangerous, nothing. A little background knowledge. I changed schools after my freshman year in high school, but I still spent a lot of time with my friends from my first high school. I'm in my first year of college now, and I still talk to these guys almost daily. They live about 30 minutes away from my parents' house, which is in a Minnesotan suburb about 20 minutes outside of the Twin Cities. Fairly populous. The town my friends live in is about 50 minutes away, and is a mix of suburbs and farmland. Much smaller population. Be me, June of last summer, heading home from hanging out with friends from high school. Decide to take the back roads instead of the freeway. Back roads from friend's house to mine are pretty scenic. Mostly cutting through fields and prairies, with the occasional wooded section. Also passes a lot of farms. About 10 minutes down the road after passing a few farms, is this dinky little sub-1,000 population town, complete with a dirt road and everything. Rolling up towards an intersection there when I see something massive in the road. This big, pale humanoid figure is basically army crawling across the road in front of my car. Looks up at me. This thing looks like it has the frame of an anorexic NBA player, with skin that sagged like it had recently had a major liposuction procedure that took it from 300 pounds to 120. Start braking when another car comes over the hill towards me. Has those bright-ass white headlights. Very clearly has the brights on. Instinctively look up at it for a second to make sure I'm not going to hit it, and then look back down at the thing in the road. It's fucking gone. The scariest thing about the creature wasn't its appearance, but the way it moved. Its arms moved like a metal thing on the outside of steam engines that drives the wheels, pig related. That was the first sighting. I convinced myself for a while that it was just a trick of the light with some fog or whatever. That was before the second encounter. 2 months pass, now mid-August. By this point, the creature had sort of become a thing of legend among our friend group. Friends came up with the name the Shambling Man, even though it was kind of just crawling, not shambling. Regardless, I had to admit the name was kind of catchy. The name ended up sticking. We sometimes refer to it as Chandler the Shambler, or just Chandler for short. Anyway, end up going to the Mall of America for the day to hang out with friend and his girlfriend. His girlfriend lives with him and his family for reasons that it wouldn't be polite to go into. Decide midway through the trip to spend the night at aforementioned friend's house. We drive to the mall separately because it was sort of a last-minute plan. Drive to my house to grab clothes and stuff. Drive to friend's house along the same back roads as before. As I pass the place where I first saw the Shambler, this horrible feeling overtakes me. Eyes actually tear up a bit. Feel kind of sick to my stomach. None of this is compared to the feeling of utter dread that hit me like a fucking bat, though. Nearly hyperventilate before I'm able to get a grip. Normally, I'm a pretty composed person. I don't get scared very easily, and at this point, I had driven on the road for like 20 times since the encounter. Basically, this wasn't some ordinary fear that you get when you do something scary. This wasn't some fucking roller coaster style stomach sickness. This was out of nowhere. This was survival instinct fear. And I was terrified. Finally, the feeling passes. Keep driving down the road, trying not to go flying into the ditch as I wipe tears out of my eyes. I'm a little confused and very surprised. I never break down like this. About 5 minutes away from my friend's house. Look back and forth between my driver's side window and the windshield. Watch the trees and brush slowly move by to calm my nerves a bit. That's when I see it. The fucking Shambling Man is standing next to a tree on the side of the road. Just standing there, staring directly at me. At least I think it is. I can't really see its eyes, but its head is pointed right at me. My heart drops, and I speed up so I can get to friend's house. His sister lets me in. Friend and his girlfriend haven't gotten there yet. Bring my stuff to the basement. Call friend. Where are you? They're out hitting Pokestops at a park nearby. Sort of just shake my head as he's talking and interrupt. I saw it again. He's confused. I saw the Shambling Man again. Brief pause. I'll be right there. He gets back, grabs 2 combat knives for him and myself. Let's go fucking find this thing. Exploring the area is a whole nother story, but we didn't actually find the thing. I had my friend stand in the exact spot I saw the creature in, though. From what I could tell, the thing was several inches taller than my friend. My friend is 6'7". While we didn't find the Shambler, we did find this weird ghetto shelter lean-in and a really eerie foggy clearing that we thought was a pond at first, before we noticed a mound in the middle with a single, solitary tree on top. The most notable thing that happened was at the end, though. Befriend and myself, walking along a horse trail parallel to the road with a 10 or 15-foot buffer of brush and trees between the two. Friend's girlfriend is waiting in the car across the street in the entrance of a dog park with a set of simple instructions. Keep the doors locked and keep the car running. If you see us running, let us in and get us the fuck out. Call if you see anything. So, we make our way down this horse trail, and we see the car at the end of the path. There's the car. I hope his girlfriend is doing all right. Keep walking. Suddenly, terror. Stop walking. Friend turns around. What are you doing? That's not our car. What do you mean? His girlfriend is waiting with the car running, remember? Dude, we parked on the other side of the road. We had to cross it to get here. Oh, fuck. See a guy walk through the light from the car to the side closest to us. Can barely hear him talking to someone else. They haven't seen us yet. Whisper to friend. I'm gonna count to 4. When I get to 4, book it to the middle of the brush where we came in and dug down. 1. The men get closer. 2. I can hear their voices still, but they've begun to talk more quietly. 3. Pause. Heart is fucking hammering. 4. We sprint into the brush and drop. We breathe quietly for what feels like 20 minutes, but was probably more like 20 seconds. Finally, I lift my head a bit to look around. I point towards the road. Friend nods. We sprint across the street to his car, like a fucking bear is hot on our heels. Peel out of the dog park. Other car pulls onto the road and starts following us. We get to a stoplight, and I turn around. Car's gone. What the fuck? Make it back safely. I was hunting with my grandfather for my 19th birthday about a year ago, and we both watched a deer slam its head into a rock until its antlers and skull were shattered. Once its brains were everywhere, it tried to lick them up and looked like it couldn't even use its jaw or tongue right. So it just stood upright like a fucking human and just walked into the river and died. We left immediately, and my granddad was fucking terrified. I haven't been near the woods since, and he moved to Florida with my grandmother for, quote-unquote, safety reasons. Southwest Florida. Live in tourist beach town. Decide to one day go east out of where I live and into the wetlands. Girlfriend at that time comes with me. Take my dad's Jeep and pack a tent, sleeping bag, fishing rods, food and supplies since I was thinking of camping out that night. Drive to Fakahatchee, which is like 40 minutes from home, but it's pretty secluded and huge. Everything is fine. Pass a ranger cabin and many trails that lead out into the swamps and fields. Get a couple miles in, where we find a clearing with 2 trails coming out of it. Decide to park and unpack there. Notice 3 dried up raccoon corpses in the entrance of one of the trails. Skin is still on them, except for the head, where it's completely bone white. Decide to kick them off into the water so my girlfriend doesn't freak. Moment I kick them and they land in the water, I hear a yelping sound coming from deep within the trail. Look back at girlfriend, and she didn't seem to notice. It was pretty fucking loud though. Decide to go check it out since I'm not camping close to some crazy animal. Get my revolver and machete. Girlfriend decides to tag along since she doesn't want to be left alone. She keeps asking why I decided to go into the trail for about like 2 miles of walking. Get to what seems like a dead end, but I can smell smoke and see metal shining in the sun behind the plants. Cut him down and pass through. Get to another clearing, circular with metal pieces of what looks like a car, outlining the edge of the clearing. big metal stake in the middle of the clearing. Girlfriend starts to freak out. Tell her to get behind me. Suddenly, hear the same yelping noise, but super fucking loud this time. What looks like a human covered in trash bags on all fours slides out from directly in front of us, heading towards the middle of the clearing. Start running back to the Jeep. Have about 2 miles of trail to go through. Can hear a fuckload of rustling behind us as we run through the trail. Look back for a second and see 2 of the same trash monsters, or whatever the fuck, booking it towards us on all fours. Yell at my girlfriend to run as fast as she can. Take that moment to turn quickly and fire a shot blindly behind me. My vision turns dark, like I suddenly put on sunglasses. Still looking behind me, and I can barely turn my head. The trash bag demons aren't on the trail. Still can't move. Another 5 seconds pass, and my vision returns to normal. So, I turn and start running after my girlfriend. No more rustling, just the sound of us running and breathing hard. Finally get to the Jeep. Quickly pack all the shit back on and have my revolver at the ready. Girlfriend screams and points to the front of the Jeep. There's a fucking severed dog head stuck on the front. What the fuck? Kick it the fuck off and jump in the truck. Peel the fuck out of there. Girlfriend is freaking out. Finally get to the main road to go back home. Try to calm my girlfriend down. Give her some water. Between sips, she keeps repeating the same shit over and over again. Get closer, since I can barely hear her. They had the faces of my parents. At that point, I'm about to shit myself. Her parents have been dead for 5 years. Go back home and lock myself in for 2 days, since I'm still feeling uneasy, especially at night. Nothing else happened after that. Me and her never talked about it after that day, and we broke up 2 years later due to other shit. Fuck going back there, though. Seriously. At my friend's house having dinner. They don't smoke. Have to go outside to smoke. Enjoying the cool summer air. Feel a creeping tingle on my neck. Look at large bush, covered fence. Nothing. Something in my mind tells me, look, for God's sake, look at it. I suddenly see a pale face in the bush. I'm a bit creeped out, but I just think it's just my mind playing tricks on me. It's like a plastic bag, and I'm just having a teleological response, etc. Walk slowly over to the bush to prove to myself that it was nothing. I walked maybe 30 feet, and it was still 40 away from me, when suddenly, my bravado evaporated in an instant. I saw a fully developed human-like face, very long with wide dark oval eyes, a thin mouth, and porcelain-colored skin. There was just something wrong about it. The face was at least 3 feet from brow to chin. It was leaning out of a bush. I could certainly see a narrow neck connecting to the head. Those eyes. The face looked dead, but those eyes looked into my soul. I don't even know what I did next. I think I just bolted back to the house. Walked my buddy's Alsatians the next morning, because, well, I wasn't going out alone. I found nothing. Not even footprints. I just suppressed what I saw, but that encounter has shattered my illusions. If it was a prank, it was a Hollywood-grade puppet. And I don't drink, and I have no mental problems. That night is like a thorn in my mind. This happened last year, after my birthday. I turned 27 on November last year. Family decides to take, I had no say, it was a forced decision, me to the beach 2 days after my birthday. All my family loves the sea. I'm the only one that doesn't. My mother, 2 sisters, and 3 brothers came. They have a shitty motorboat docked on the shore that my brother rented. I get basically dragged onto it. Mother stays on the sand with my youngest brother and sister. My brother then starts it up and drives off into nowhere. I get seasick very easily, so I'm feeling horrible on that boat. And there's nothing I can do about it because no one gives a shit. Fall into a nauseous sleep. Wake up, underwater. First thought is that my siblings threw me off to mess with me. Swim up to surface. I was really deep underwater somehow. Can't see or hear the boat anywhere. Dread begins to fill me when I realize I'm in the middle of the ocean with no idea of where the shore is. Panic for a bit. Extremely scared of the ocean for reasons many would understand. After a while, I accept my fate and wait for death to reach me. Float face up. Can't remember how long I was floating along. I just know it was a long while. Get the nauseous feeling of seasickness. Don't remember when I was placed back on the boat. It's late at night when I realize what's going on. I'm laying on my back. My sister is crying. One of my brothers is checking vitals or something, I don't fucking know. And my brother is driving the boat with a stern look. Turns out, they had forgotten all about me for 9 fucking hours. Panicked when they realized I was gone and found me face up on the water with a lifeless look in my eyes. It still scares me to think what would have happened if I hadn't been found. My birthday is coming up soon. My face when there has been talk about, quote-unquote, making it up to me by doing the same thing. Make it up to you by finishing the job. Posted this a few weeks ago in a greentext thread. Have a colleague. Become pretty good friends recently. Feel connected to her in a way I don't with others. Said something to her. I can't remember what it was. She was a bit spooked because I said exactly what she was thinking or planning to do. I laughed it off and she seemed a mix of intrigued and weirded out. Anyway, yesterday, she's out on an office errand. Get a thought that says that she needs something on her PC and wants me to send it to her. 2 minutes later, my phone rings and I know exactly who it is and what she'll say. This has happened twice again since I made the post. Anon says she's my soulmate. Be me. Be around 5 or 6. On the back seats of my dad's car with my uncle. We were going out the restaurant for dinner. About 7 p.m., already dark. I was watching outside the window. Suddenly, the high beams light up something on the edge of the road. Stuck on the grass, there was a very bright red face. Almost triangular, with stylized facial features, pitch black eyes, and a white mouth. See pic, not a good artist. I immediately looked away and asked Dad if he saw that. Yes. I asked what was that? My father and my uncle answer almost in unison. It's the red face. They were very serious. I ended up being silent the whole trip because I was shitting myself. Not really creepy, but weird. Here's a little backstory. When I was in university, I was roommates with this guy that had Asperger's. He was a really nice guy, but socially inept and very solitary. I'm an Aussie, and he was a Chinese exchange student. Always kept to himself and was very clean in particular, which is great because I'm more of a quiet introvert myself. He was 22 and just finishing up a bachelor's of anatomy and cell biology. Roommate goes to class, and I have the day off. Notice he didn't lock the door to his room. Never been in there before. I know it's a breach of privacy and totally not cool, but curiosity gets the best of me. Know he has 2 terrariums with hermit crabs and a lizard. I've only seen them when he cleans them. Walk in. All kinds of weird shit all over the room. Take a peek at the terrariums. There's a third. Small heated glass container holding something that looks like a big white barnacle with a single black eye and tiny appendages. Binders of notes on his desk. Quickly peek over them. Tons of pictures of other barnacle-looking creatures. Some in tanks, and some cut open. last one in binder, is Howard. Picture of the one in the tank. Lists of ingredients and receipts for medical research supplies store inside. About 10 different ingredients was apparently put into it. What caught my interest was the dollar amounts. $600 or something for mesenchymal stem cells is the only one I remember. Apparently, he put a concoction inside of a live unfertilized platypus egg along with his own sperm and grew this thing. Take a picture of it. It moves when the flash goes off. Don't mention it for weeks, and soon my roommate has graduated and is moving on to a research job back in China. Mention Howard to him. He gets angry about me entering his room without permission. Says he had types of coral he was growing for the terrariums. Makes me delete the picture, or he'll be keeping the last 2 months of rent. Apologize. Never hear from him again. Anyway, it was on my mind for a while, and I did some research. And it became clear he was making a really sophisticated homunculus. I was able to find different pictures and even videos of ones on the internet, but none as complex looking as the one I saw that day. Honestly, it was so big and sprawled out looking. I thought it was some kind of petri dish mold that he created. But I thought the eye was really odd. I summed up the movement to my eyes playing a trick on me, or me dumping something. I wish I knew more about it. I wonder if he's still growing them, and if Howard is still alive. Visit grandfather in hospital. Night by the time we leave. Sitting in car with family. I notice an illuminated doorway in an old building, with a man in a suit making all kinds of gestures, using his hands as if he's using a steering wheel, falling over, strange hand signals, shaven head, wearing an old kind of suit, eyes blacked out by shadow. Stare fixedly at it. Back of my mind tells me it's rude to stare, but I stare anyway. Brother asks what I'm looking at. I nod towards the door, talk about the strange man. But, Anan, nobody's there. I am 100% I saw someone in that doorway, behaving strangely. And nothing like that has happened since. Be me, 20-something wage slave. In a bus going home after a long day of work. Some random guy standing next to me. Ordinary-looking skinny dude. He strikes up a conversation. Typical small talk bullshit. I'm not particularly interested in chit-chat, so I just nod and give the occasional short answer. He suddenly starts dropping little snippets of information about my personal life into his sentences. Some of it is stuff I've never told anyone about, not even my closest family members. I'm sweating like crazy, thinking the dude is probably some deranged stalker who wants to gut me and wear my skin as a diving suit, or some such horror movie bullshit. Pretend I'm not at all creeped out and continue to go along with the conversation. Bus reaches my stop. I tell mystery guy that it was nice talking to him, and quickly get off the bus. Run home, lock the door as tight as possible, close the blinds, grab my gun from the safe and keep it at arm's length for the entire evening. Nothing happens, but I do feel uneasy for a few days. Several years later, I still have no clue who the guy was, and how the fuck he knew all of those things. This short story is from my mother, who heard it from her friend, and is not scary, like who was phone, perhaps unnerving, but it is more heartwarming-ish. Be mom's friend, be in mid-20s. Go attend a posthumous wedding when visiting Korea. Sure, why not that JPEG? Wedding held in a monk's temple. Monk has done all of the decorations and prepares the wedding. Uses 2 dolls. One is that of a woman. The other is that of a man. They are placed facing towards the altar in the middle of the temple next to each other, like bride and groom. Monk explains that the spirits of 2 virgin ghosts, which, yes, that is a thing in Korea, and they are apparently quite aggressive, will possess the dolls as their connection to the land of the living. Mom's friend is amused, but is respectful. The wedding is complete, and the monk ushers everyone and himself out of the temple to leave the newlyweds alone. Leave the two dolls overnight. The monk returns the next day. Discover the dolls have been moved. The dolls were found facing each other. It is romantic, yet eerie. Anyone else have slightly strange experiences as a young child, and only when you got older you look back on them and realized they were impossible? 3 to 4 years old. We're poor and live in a shitty apartment. My parents slept on a mattress on the floor. One day, playing and jumping on the mattress. Jump off the mattress and onto the floor, but somehow managed to end up flipped completely upside down out of nowhere, balanced perfectly on the center of my head, with nothing close to lean on, and not using my hands to support either. Defying laws of physics, but too young to realize. As a kid, just think, haha, I have a flat head, and I'm balanced on it. Think back on it later on in my life and realize it's completely fucking impossible. Parents don't remember it at all. 4 to 5 years old. Wake up in the middle of the night. Mom is not home. Walk in the living room. Dad is standing there, in the middle of the room, fully naked, standing in a T-pose, like a 3D computer model. He's completely motionless, like a statue. Not even blinking. Too young to care all that much or question it. Go back to bed. Decades later, I think about it again and realize how fucking weird it was. Dad passed away, so now I can't even ask him. I got one. Be me, total fucking redneck. Driving around a logging road to find some place to camp. Pull up by a little creek. Follow said creek. Pitch tent in nice little clear area. Disclaimer, this is not a clearing. It still has a tree canopy. The trees are just farther apart. Got my redneck buddy with me. Hell yeah. Drinking beers, roasting weenies. I'm about 1 beer away from being drunk. When it happens, see some fucker spider-walking exorcist style between trees. Both of us book it and leave the tent. Thing gives chase for about 700 meters. We are also lucky that we didn't start a fire. Be me, 10 years ago. Still in med school. Have kinky girlfriend. Keep having more intense odd sex. Reaches pinnacle of the bizarre. Says she wants to be fucked to death. Or fuck a corpse. Idea forms. I quote-unquote borrow a defibrillator, adrenaline, and other resuscitative tools from work. Get home. Hardcore sex for around an hour until we're about to climax. Pull out. Ties her down. Use defibrillator. Her heart stops. Convulsions. Unresponsive. Quickly finish fucking her dead body within 3 minutes. Begin reviving process immediately after to avoid brain death. Gasps awake. Panics. Cries. Calms down. Says she loved it. Do this every other month till she committed suicide a year later due to unrelated mental health problems. Finally, the feeling passes. Finally. Finally, the feeling passes. Finally, the feeling passes. Why do I say finally like that?
Finally, the feeling passes.